what we're chanting are what is known as the holy names. Yeah. It's the names of God. It's the names of the divine. It's the names of love. It's the names of loving awareness. It's everything that I spoke to in that opening invocation. It's what Ram Dass embodied, what I learned from being in his presence. So the idea is that by singing these names, by keeping our mind pointed on the names, it does something to us through the repetition of the name. It's said in the path of bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, kirtan is a devotional practice, that the fruit and the means are one and the same. So we practice love because we want love. Yeah? The idea is that we're not practicing something else to get to love later. We just practice loving. Through this practice of chanting the names, we awaken that love. We're said to gain a taste of the name. So these names that we're saying are said to be a perfect mirror of that love within. So as we're chanting the sound of Sitaram, it's no different than the meaning of Sitaram. It's said that the moment you call to God, God has to come. Has to. Right? Because God is infused in the name. The moment we say the name, we remember. God's always here, but the name especially reminds us. So, we chant the names, we watch our mind wander, we just bring it back, just like any other meditation practice. Yeah. The name's reminding us that all of it is God. That God is here right now, not separate, in this moment. So sometimes I like to ask myself, would I sing any differently if I really knew that to be true? Yeah, if I was really actually singing to God, would I sing any differently? We don't have to force any type of experience to happen. We just need to not get in our own way. Yeah? So if we find ourselves naturally, the heart is opening, we want to sing a little bit louder with a little bit more devotional courage, maybe a little softer, sweeter. Maybe we just want to pour our longing into the name. Whatever it is, as we learn that this is really safe, because we are just singing after all, right? We're not doing headstands or whatever else. Yeah? We're just singing. So as we learn that it's safe, we just allow ourselves to be a little bit more buoyant with our devotional expression. So, we sing with sincerity, we sing with one-pointedness, and we get out of our own way. A sense of allowance. I'm going to do one more chant before I pass it on to Pav. Thank you. Is everyone comfortable in other ways? Can everyone hear okay? Sounds good? Yeah? When I was a young man at the house, living at Ram Dass's, I was one of his caregivers. That's really where I got my start chanting. And I was pretty shy with it at first. It was a pretty personal practice. So they let me build this temple out of tarps and like a canopy, and I built it at the bottom of the fruit orchard so I could be down there and just chant whenever I wanted and not disturb anyone, but also so that people couldn't really hear me and I could really allow myself to go through this practice, right? The same practice I'm doing now of allowance. But Dasima, who was Ram Dass's like number one caregiver, she's the one that was there the longest amount of time and is still there at Hanuman Maui, is the president, still serving him through the temple that's been built there. She would start to nudge me to sing with people in the living room when guests would stay. So it would just be me and a small handful of people, and I would be so nervous, chanting with people, just so worried I was going to mess up, especially singing the Hanuman Chalisa. That still happens to me. Sometimes I'm like, don't forget the words. But there's this one chant in particular that she really loved, and she would always request it. In the beginning, it was great because it was a chant that I knew, so I felt good about chanting it. But I was down there in my little temple and developing my own melodies and, wanting to start to share those, especially as I started to increase my confidence. But she would always request the same chant. And over time, it stopped being this joy-filled thing. I started to feel like a little annoyed. And then one time, Raghu Marcus, who is the head of the Love Serve Remember Foundation, the foundation that's built around Ram Dass's teachings, and is an old friend of Ram Dass's and is one of the people that was there with Neem Karoli Baba back in the 70s. So Raghu Marcus was at the house when we're in the living room and Dasima requests it and I chant it. I go through my whole internal process of tightening up. And at the end, he said something. He said, every time we would sing this to Maharaji, and he was emphatic, every time tears would just roll down his eyes. And something switched in that moment. I definitely saw where I was caught, but I also, a deeper meaning of the chant had opened to me. Since then, I've also heard that he would bounce around as a little child, and he would both like laugh and cry at the same time. I mean, he would just be ecstatic at this chant. So, whenever I chant this now, of course, I think of him, I think of Dasima, I think of sitting in the living room in that house and just the puja table. I mean, I can see it in my mind's eye right now, that puja table. It's like my spiritual home lives in that imaginary world in my mind. So there's just two words in different orders, but just two words. The first one is Gopala. Can you say that? Gopala. Yeah. The next one we'll do in two parts. Devaki.
Devaki.
Nandana.
Nandana.
Devaki Nandana.
Devaki Nandana.
That's it.